Good afternoon and welcome everyone to our May edition of Superintendents Webcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know this is an incredibly busy time in your school districts. It's hard to believe that we are winding down another school year, another successful school year for many of us. And that, of course, means making sure that we are finalizing everything, that we're ending a fiscal year as that happens at the same time too. And then, of course, the celebrations, whether it's graduation or transitions from one class to another, and of course, the excitement looking forward to summertime for our students. So do appreciate you taking some time in this very, very busy time to join us as we provide some updates from the Kentucky Department of Education. I do appreciate all the thought that you are putting in and planning for these memorable events for our students and families. They will certainly be events that they won't forget. Let's jump right into our agenda and we'll get started. We do have a busy agenda today. We will start up with some updates from myself and from our Director of Communications, Jennifer Ginn. We'll do a brief spot on new legislative guidance that came out last Monday from Brian Perry, our Director of Government Relations. House Bill 6, the biennial budget provisions, we've been getting some questions from districts on that. And so we'd like to provide a little further detail on some provisions in the budget bill and more to come as we roll along. We are very pleased to have with us our friends from our sister agency, the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. We have Commissioner Lisa Dennis and some of her staff from the Kentucky Department for Community-Based Services. And they're going to talk about the summer EBT program. We also have staff from the Kentucky Department of Education that assist with that program. The Kentucky United We Learn Council has been very busy. In April, we had a convening. Karen Dodd, our Chief Performance Officer, and Dr. Jim Flynn, our newly elected Kentucky United We Learn Vice Chair, will be with us. And then we'll finish up with some updates from Mickey Ray, our Chief Academic Officer, on the Kentucky Read to Succeed initiatives. Always, we are here to allow time for questions and answers. And I also will just point out that Q&A feature that is at the top of your screen. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to put it in there. We will either try to answer some of these online with time permitting, or we'll make sure that we get back to you after our webcast. If we could go to the first slide, please. And the next one. The first thing that I want to share is an exciting opportunity that we do in the summertime. It's called Summer Boost Reading and Mathematics Program. We all know that during the school year, school districts serve as a very important place for students to get support as the whole child development, making sure that they are ready and prepared for academic instruction and learning. And it's great that so many of you provide opportunities for summer feeding sites as well. 29 districts, we appreciate so much and thank the 29 districts that will be participating in this year's Summer Boost Reading and Math program. It is a partnership between KDE, the Summer Food Service Program, and the Children's Reading Foundation. There will be about 1,000 books for these participating districts that will be free and distributed at the meal sites. And families have been told to reach out to their local summer food service department for more information about those meal sites. A very, very important endeavor that we do in the summertime. I would encourage you, if the opportunity arises for you, you might want to invite one of your local legislators to participate in Summer Boost programs this summer. It's a wonderful way to show how districts continue to support our students in the summer months. And if you have any questions about how to do that, or maybe need a little assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to Brian Perry here on our staff, and he'll be happy to help you and connect with those legislators. Next slide, please. We are very excited that KDE has finally received a bus that we've been waiting on for some time. I know lots of districts are waiting on buses as well. And so for us, this was the light at the end of the tunnel finally. After about more than 2 years waiting for this bus, we have now received a bus for students at the Kentucky School for the Deaf. It is a one-of-a-kind bus and has been fitted to accommodate up to 4 wheelchair positions at one time. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for the students that you entrust to us in the care at Kentucky School for the Deaf to have new opportunities and exposure to increased athletic opportunities or field trips. It is a one of a kind, and we're really, really happy that it has finally arrived. And I guess I share it as a glimmer of hope for others who are still waiting on your buses. We continue to work with those distributors to try to get them to you quickly. But here is one, and we're so happy to have received it. Next slide, please. It is my privilege and honor to announce some distinguished award recipients. 5 students from all over Kentucky, and they are listed on this slide, and their corresponding district or school have been named U.S. Presidential Scholars in the class of 2024. And we want to congratulate these outstanding students for this major accomplishment where they are being recognized for accomplishments in academics, the arts, and career and technical education fields. So congratulations to our U.S. Presidential Scholars. Next slide. And finally, one more accolade and notes of congratulation. Congratulations to Arlington Elementary in Fayette County and Robert D. Johnson Elementary in Fort Thomas Independent for earning status as 2024 Green Ribbon Schools. These schools are 2 out of only 41 schools that were named nationwide for their innovation efforts in areas of reducing environmental impact, improving the health and wellness of students and staff, and also promoting and providing sustainability education. And so we're very proud of those schools in gaining recognition for Kentucky and for their respective communities as Green River schools. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jennifer again. She is our Director of Communications for some additional KDE updates.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next slide, please. Here is our usual first slide, the new competitive grants from KDE. You'll see it's a FY25 Math Achievement Fund Coaching Cohort 2 grants. Grant applications are due June 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, $62,000 award amount. There is a 100% match required. Let's see, the coaching grant provides funding to hire a math coach within each school. And you can see the new information in there about cohort 2, that there's no limit on the percentage that can be used for salary. KDE will be paying the cost that require professional development for the coach. So if you have any questions, there is the link to the competitive grants webpage, or you can email Jennifer Bryant. Next slide, please. This was at the request of our Office of Educator Licensure and Effectiveness. We have some training dates. This is the 24-25 initial certified evaluation training, in-person options, maximum 60 participants. They are going through our educational cooperatives. So you can see we have July, August, September, October, and November training dates. Next slide, please. Here is the 24-25 certified evaluation update training, and it is, you can see the subject area, like collaboration focus is in June, July, August, and November, and there is a coaching focus that is in July, September, and October. Those are also going through our cooperatives, although there are a couple of dates that are going to be here at the Sauer Building in Frankfurt. Next slide, please. We have just a few days left on this. We're still accepting nominations for the 2024 Grissom Award for Innovation Special Education. Those nominations close on the 17th. Each year, the state board gives an award to a Kentuckian or Kentucky organization to honor outstanding dedication to improving achievement for students with disabilities. You'll see the link to the nomination form right in this slide deck. You can also find it on the Kentucky Board of Education pages on the main KDE website. Next slide. All right, that brings us to Brian Perry on new legislative guidance. Off to you, Brian. The new PhD, Mr. Perry.
Thanks, Jen. Just a couple of quick updates this afternoon. Next slide, please. So we did put out our initial round of guidance. The overall guidance is listed there at the top of the page, and then you'll notice that a couple of offices have released some supplemental guidance already for additional bills. So please check those out. This is, again, just our initial round of guidance like we always do. In the past, we have started with bills that have an emergency clause for some or all of the bill. This year, we just went ahead and did all of them right out of the gate. So we'll be following this up with more specific guidance as needed. If you have any particular questions, please reach out to somebody at the department and let us know. That way we can start compiling those. And if we need to do an FAQ for any particular bill, we can start working on that. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Commissioner Kinney mentioned if you are interested in inviting legislators to your summer boost program, please let me know if you need help with that. I'll be happy to assist. Also wanted to quickly mention that the LRC did post the 2024 interim calendar. That's now available, and I'll post that link in the chat. That starts basically for us, it'll start June 4th with the first interim joint education meeting, and we'll run through November. So lots will be happening in the interim, so please check that out. Thank you very much.
We'll now turn it over to Matt Ross and Shay Ritter, who are going to give us some updates on the biennial budget.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, Dr. Perry. We've, like Robin said in the beginning, we've received several questions and on some of the provisions in the budget. While this probably won't get all of them, this is the ones we've heard sort of the most and the loudest about. So, but before I launch into the House Bill 6 budget provisions, Robin wanted me to talk about House Bill 727 just real briefly. That's the bill that allows local school districts, school boards to issue general obligation bonds. We've been trying to work through sort of what this means with the SFCC and with the Office of Financial Management. You know, I think the bill allows local boards of education to issue general obligation bonds up to 2% of their assessed property value. These bonds must be issued through a competitive solicitation. And I think one of the main points, you know, is that districts work with their school district, their school board councils on this one. We've identified some pitfalls and some things that they think about. We are going to work with SFCC to create a letter to sort of to board councils to sort of outline some of the concerns and pitfalls that we see and some things to think about if you're exploring this option to issue bonds, general obligation bonds. It's a whole new process, so there's some growing pains I think that we're going to have to work through as districts start to think in this direction. Okay, I think we can launch into House Bill 6 biennial budget provisions next. So the first one I'm going to touch on is the funds available for SROs for districts. The budget provides $16.5 million in fiscal year 25 and $18 million in fiscal year 26 to assist districts in funding salaries for SROs. It says up to $20,000 for each campus. We've put the definition of campus. It can be one school building or it can be multiple school buildings. And if the funds are insufficient, then the awards will be reduced proportionally. We do not believe at this point that there are enough funds to provide $20,000 for all districts. I think our plan is to open up an application sort of period or and let districts sort of do a simple application, and then we will, based on that pool, we will divvy up the money. So we're still sort of working through that process, but that is sort of our thought process right now. Yeah, so I think that's the SRO one. I'll throw it to Che for the next two.
Thank you, Matt, giving me the exciting topics. Property assessment growth relief. This was passed very late in the session as the hours ticked. Out of the Senate came Senate Bill 91. This is a pretty complicated piece of legislation which requires about 32 readings to understand what they're trying to do. But essentially, it provides that KDE will, and I'm air quoting, adjust the assessment for qualifying districts in each fiscal year to provide real estate growth relief. So previously, I'm going to say back around 2010 or so, they had put into statute language that we kind of throw around called the 4% adjusted assessment. This has to do with your real estate assessment only. And it's a little bit of a formula, and we check for it each and every year. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to submit anything. We get this when the Department of Revenue sends us your property assessments. And this new adjustment in Senate Bill 91 would be in addition to that. You can go to the next slide, please. So again, specific to real property assessments only. So don't look at the SEEK assessment and get confused. This is real property. You'll be able to see these numbers when you get your tax reports. And there are multiple qualifying events that must occur for your district to qualify and or receive the adjustment. And the big one, of course, is that funds are available in the SEEK budget appropriation. And the good news is that typically, we have base SEEK, you've got some other pots of money in there. If there's money left over across kind of the board, typically we can access those funds to help fund adjustments like this. So we do have a little flexibility within the budget, which we're grateful for because it does help us out quite a few times over the years. And you can go to the next slide, please. All right, the first leg of this adjustment occurs in 24-25. And in 23-24 and 24-25, you must have qualified for the 4% adjusted assessment. And then your local board must levy the 4% tax rate or greater in 24-25. Also experience cumulative growth in real estate assessments between 22-23 and 24-25 in excess of 14.4%. So, for example, if you were at 16.2%, KDE would adjust for that amount above 14.4. So we would sort of adjust it so your local effort specific to that real property would come back to you in the form of an adjustment. And this is that 30-cent local effort only on the real property. You can go to the next slide, please. So in 25-26, it's a lot of the same, except the hurdles have been moved a little bit. So that a little bit different time frame from 22-23 to 25-26, longer time frame, in excess of 25.8%. So if during that time frame you qualified for the 4% adjusted assessment, your board levied the 4% tax rate or greater, and you exceeded 25.8% growth in real estate assessments, KDE will be able to adjust that local effort above 25.8%, and that's cumulative growth. Now, the hardest part of this is right now, some districts have qualified, assuming that real estate continues to grow in their district, except we don't know if the funds will be available. And obviously, we don't have property assessments yet. We'll get those late July or so in August. And so we're still kind of putting all these hurdles together right now. And later on this year, we'll have a little bit more information. We'll be able to report back to districts that have qualified or not qualified, say, just to make your board aware, this is another qualifier you would have to do. You can go to the next slide, please. So this is what we're working on, kind of a notification of this language to kind of give boards and districts a heads up that you all are either close or, relatively close to qualifying for these adjustments. But your board would have to obviously take that 4%, for example. We want boards to be aware of that when they head into tax season. Now, as far as the funding itself and the payment, we would not be able to do that until March 1 of each fiscal year, along with our final SEEK calculation. That's because we need to do that to make sure funds are available. And it takes quite a while for all these things to obviously occur, but mostly it's to determine if funds are available to pay for that adjustment. We can go to the next one. Okay, we got quite a few questions over the last couple months at least about SEEK transportation. We update this every year by statute by March 1. It's in your final SEEK calculation. And during our budget process, we start early in the probably late summer, early fall before the session starts. We provide the most recent numbers to the governor's office of the state budget director. And in turn, they sort of build their core budget based on that. And then on or before March 1, we provide updated transportation numbers to two parties. One is the Office of State Budget Director. And because the governor's already submitted his budget, it's more informational for them. But very importantly, we provide this to LRC staff. We actually provide it to them a little earlier than March 1 if we can, because we understand they're in the middle of a budget, writing session, and they need updated information as soon as possible. And I want to be very clear that we provide this every single year. It's a very public number. There's no secret to it. And we make sure that they get that number as soon as we have it, sort of settled down. And they obviously coordinate with the General Assembly when they're finishing up the budget. And you can go to the next slide. So to give you some idea, this is just sort of a chart of when we switch over on unprorated transportation cost. That's your, raw cost. If we had a blank check, this is what we would need to pay for the full amount. And if you'll notice, each time we hit a SEEK final in FY23, FY24, and so on and so forth, that's when it will switch over, because that's done March 1. And you'll see the percent funded will change too. And that's because, sometimes that costs go up, but the appropriation is still stuck in the last budget. And if you look at FY24, we were at 274 million. FY23, 274 million. So that's a relatively stable number that they appropriated. And the cost, if you remember through COVID, was pretty well frozen. There's a little bit of change there due to some blind and deaf transportation. But for the most part, it was pretty well frozen. And then as we came out of COVID, we recalculated, and using that prior year data like we always do, and got $484 million in unprorated cost. This was determined on or before March 1 of 2024, just basically 2 months ago. Again, we hand that information over to the General Assembly, and they appropriated, for FY25, it's 358 million. And then they up it about 40 million in FY26 to 398 million. So right now, as we're heading into FY25, it'll be funded at about 74%. And then when we recalculate March 1 of 2025, that's when we'll know for the next, go around how well it will be funded. If it's up or down remains to be seen. We don't know what the calculated cost will be until March 1 of 2025, roughly. I think we go to the next slide. That might be it. Yep, that's it for me. And I will hang on this call as long as I can, but I do have to make a short trip this evening. So if you do have any questions specific to your district or otherwise, feel free to email me, che.ritter@education.ky.gov.
Thank you so much, Che, and to Matt for that. We tried to build the presentation on the budget bill around questions that we are already receiving from districts. However, we know there's still a lot more questions out there. So if you can please send your questions on the budget bill to Matt or Che, we'll make sure that in future Superintendents Webcasts, we continue to update that information, and also provide those updates through our Finance Officer webcasts as well. Our next item on the agenda, we do have guests here with us today from the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Commissioner Dennis is on with some of her staff, Jessica Hinkle, Lee Dixon, Kim Pass, and I think Todd Trapp was also added to the presentation today to share with us the upcoming processes around summer electronic benefits transfer for 2024, a very important program that benefits our students and our families. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinney, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Lisa Dennis, and I am the Commissioner of the Department for Community-Based Services. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this afternoon and for making time for us on the agenda to discuss summer EBT. Most of you are likely aware or have heard of the summer EBT program, and we are excited to share more with you today. So, Summer Electronic Benefits Transfer, or summer EBT, is a permanent federal child nutrition program offering benefits to students from eligible families to help cover the cost of meals during the summer when schools are not in session. Summer EBT, and you're familiar with pandemic EBT, they are not the same programs, but the underlying mission or principles are the same, and that is to ensure children have access to food during the summer months when school is not in session. Pandemic electronic benefits, or PEBT, ended in summer of 2023, but not all students who were eligible for PEBT in the past will be eligible for the new summer EBT program in the summer of 2024. You will hear more about who is eligible in a minute from other DCBS team members who are on this call. But summer EBT, again, is a permanent program that operates under different guidelines than pandemic EBT, which was a temporary response to the public health emergency. So we are projecting through the summer EBT program that approximately 400,000 to 450,000 students will receive summer EBT benefits in 2024, and each student will receive a total summer benefit of $120, which equates to approximately $48 million in total issuance in 2024. And I know that each of you and your local school districts and teachers understand the importance of food and what it means to children and their academic success, as well as their overall well-being. KDE and schools across the Commonwealth, you all have been addressing food insecurity for years for your students. Each local school district has worked with local community resources. You have implemented backpack programs, you've worked with Friskies, and done other creative things to ensure that students had increased access to food during times when children were not in school. So DCBS and right now, currently DCBS and schools already work together on so many things to address the overall well-being of children across the state, which is why we are excited to build upon that already strong partnership with KDE and local school districts by collaborating on summer EBT. We can't issue these benefits without your help. So again, thank you for all that you do every day on the behalf of Kentucky's children and your longstanding partnership with DCBS, because together we are making a difference for children all across the Commonwealth. And I will not miss this opportunity to share with you. I often tell my staff in DCBS that they are the unsung heroes for children, and the same is true for our teachers and educators. I am such a strong believer in this administration and our approach to the work that we all do together as part of Team Kentucky. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate each of you and your partnership with this initiative and all the things that we do together each and every day. So I'm going to turn it over to the other DCBS team members on this call who are the experts and can provide you with more details and specifics around summer EBT and our implementation plan.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Jessica Hinkle. I am the branch manager in Division of Family Support. Summer EBT is one of the programs that we administer along with many other public assistance programs, but so happy to be part of such a great thing for our kids of the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. Okay, so eligibility. As Commissioner spoke before, our eligibility is a little bit different than whenever we had the PEBT. So for SEBT, it's all public and private school students who enrolled in the National School Lunch Program, as well as those students must qualify for free and reduced price meals. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about enrollment and how we're going to have these kids get the benefits that they are eligible for. So first we have these kids are ones that are already receiving SNAP, KTAP, and kinship care. during the 23-24 school year. These students will automatically receive summer EBT. They do not have to apply. Again, these are automatic, those on the direct cert file. So the next category are those that are not on the direct cert file, right? And then they are also not of compulsory age. Therefore, they must apply. So then you might ask, how do they apply? Next slide, please. So here we go. We have a website here, and this application is going to be available June 25th. So automatically, when I say June 25th, I look at the lower right-hand corner of my computer to say, what day is today? And oh my goodness, it is May already, folks. I can't believe it. I have 2 kiddos myself, and I can't believe that they're going to be sophomores next year. Yes, they're twins. So I look at the beautiful calendar. It said May, but on June 25th is when that online application will be available to those families that need to apply. And parents and guardians that have any questions about applications or how to apply, not only do we have an online presence of the application, but they can also receive hard copies. And they can call DCBS at our number, or they can visit a local office. I would also like to add that these applications, you see at the very top, I don't read very well these PowerPoints. I kind of like to talk. That first line said it's modeled after the free reduced meals application. I do want to add that those applications are going to be asking for the SSID number. So just, think about that and about your schools, because parents might be calling about, how do I get the SSID? Now, I understand that some schools have it on their Infinite campus, so it may be just a reminder to let those families know that they can get their SSID number there. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, we need your help, and you've always come through with it for us. We're very, very appreciative. We worked PEBT. It was what would happen. And it's because we had the common mission that I've always said things become easy. So I want to say thank you to all the school districts that are helping us. But again, we're going to need their help. We're going to need their help again this year. So unfortunately, KDE wasn't able to provide us the data for all the school enrollment data. So we've worked with Department of Education, and we just decided this is how we can get it. So what we're going to do is we're going to be asking each school district to provide us with their school enrollment data. That data is going to be put on an Excel, and we're going to show the school districts what kind of format that we need. And it's going to be put into a secure SEBT portal. And that's going to be starting in May, which is now. Now is May, right? So in a couple of weeks, we're going to be talking to those schools more about it. We've already introduced the schools about what we're going to be expecting. But just to get into those key questions that they might have and the details of uploading the data, we're going to have an office session with them in June 4th. Now that office session is going to be fantastic. We have our group, DCBS, on the call, as well as KDE. So if we have any questions, we can be able to address them. And any questions that we can't address on the spot, we will be sure to collect those questions and send out a response. I'm just so happy that both of us together with KDE can have that office hour session, because some of the questions will be better addressed coming from both parties. So appreciate. Next slide. I think we're going to be talking about our materials and our support. So just a friendly reminder, if you have any PEBT materials on your website, if you could kindly remove it, just so we don't confuse the public. We will be sending out SEBT materials out to those school districts. It's amazing materials. It is very user-friendly. You can put it on your websites, your social media platforms, newsletters, communications, and as well, we've made it to where you can insert your own information. It can be unique to your school somewhat. Below at the bottom, you'll see school administrators. So when we're talking to those school districts about how to upload that school enrollment data, and if they have questions, we have an email just for the school administrators. And that's all about uploading the data and how can we help them get it completed. But if you are families and you want questions, student level questions about SCBT, they can call this line. They can call our DCBS line and have those questions. As well, we have a link to our webpage that can provide you some more information. Next slide. So this next slide is like my absolute favorite. I've got to say, I'm so happy that we found this picture. It's a cute little girl. And I just want to say thank you so much for all of your help. And I'm so excited to do this 2024 implementation. We're going to be having to do this ongoing, and I can't wait to learn from what we've done this year and how we're going to do it next year to be even better if it can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Dennis and Jessica, for your comments and guidance to our local school districts on summer EBT. We certainly appreciate the partnership with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and a variety of programs that we work on together, always trying to support our students and families. So thank you for joining us today. Our next presentation is an update on Kentucky United We Learn Council. And the council has been very, very busy. And so I'm going to invite Karen Dodd, our Chief Performance Officer, and our newly elected Vice Chair, Dr. Jim Flynn, for the next portion of our presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinney. Dr. Flynn and I are both very excited to be here to share with you the latest information that we have from the United We Learn Council. So we'll go to the next slide and just talk very briefly about our membership. We started off with about 75 members. There's been a lot of fluctuation over time, and we're at about 55 members right now. Penny Christian is currently our council chair. She is over the Parent Teacher Association and just very active in the education space. Of course, you all know Dr. Jim Flynn, and he was just elected, as Commissioner Kinney said, as our council vice chair. So for the next year, he'll remain in that role, and then he will move into the council chair role next April. We can go to the next slide. So we just wanted to let you give you some information on the most recent convening that we have. We have 2 convenings a year for the United We Learn Council. They happen in the fall and in the spring. And so we just wrapped up our spring convening, which was our 4th convening. So we're about halfway through. I'm not going to say halfway through the work because we're not halfway through the work, but we're about halfway through the time allotted to do this work. In the April convening, we took care of some business in there. We approved our council charter. Again, we elected Dr. Flynn as our council vice chair. We have a roadmap that we reviewed, and I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. We also looked over our design principles, and Dr. Flynn is going to talk more about those, as well as the work groups that were formed. Let's go on to the next slide. And this is the roadmap, and you'll see that it still says draft on it, and that's because the work is currently in progress and those dates can change. We kept them kind of generic. You just see a season and a year on there. But we have a lot going on this summer, so we'll have to see how far we get with all of this work over the summer. What I really want to point out is that the moonshot, or the vision for Kentucky United We Learn, the United We Learn Council, is to build a prosperous Kentucky. We will launch an accountability system that is meaningful and useful to all our learners. And you'll see at the end of this roadmap, we expect to have an approved, reimagined accountability system by the summer of 2026. And so to get there, we have prototypes that are being developed as we speak. and then just all of the different things that need to be done in order to get there. So there's a lot of K groups and advisory groups, educators, community members, all kinds of folks that we want to make sure that we share this with and get input from before we actually get to that place of an approved accountability system. And that's what you're really seeing here. So the draft is because this is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time to get where we want to be. As a matter of fact, once we shared this with our members in April, at the end of the convening, we had someone say that they felt that we were really making progress in April. Up to that point, we spent a lot of time learning. You have to keep in mind that these council members are students, parents, we have educators in there, we have community members, business leaders, so stakeholders from all over and all different backgrounds. And we felt it was really important to get everybody on the same page. So the first really half of this work has been getting everyone to the same page, looking at the kinds of things that are currently happening in our schools in Kentucky when it comes to vibrant learning experiences for students. And so we're just now getting to where we've consolidated all of that information, all of the learning, and now we're getting down to really pushing forward to put something in place. And these prototypes are the start of that. So that's where we are. And like I said, they have said that, you know, we're making such good progress right now. We've got this momentum that they asked if we could have another convening over the summer. So we are looking at doing that probably in July. We are planning to have a summer convening in between this and the fall convening. We can go to the next slide. And with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Flynn to talk about our design principles.
Thanks, Karen, and good afternoon, everyone. And this is exciting work, and even seeing that blueprint slide really excites me because it starts putting into reality, you know, a time frame for this work to move it from aspirational to operational. So from design, creation to implementation. And we really feel like we're gaining traction on this. And these design principles, you know, help make sure that the moonshot and the vision of Kentucky United We Learn have some guardrails to ensure quality and effective design at the state and at the local level. The themes that we're working around in these design principles include prioritizing student experiences and outcomes. And if you think about it, it's the experiences that our students have in our schools as a result of our educational programming that drives learning, as well as behavior, attendance, and community support. The second design principle is around valuing local context and expertise. And we've got to cultivate that local community support and buy-in, because ultimately a community gets the schools it wants, right? And if we want them to have the kinds of schools they want, we have to intentionally engage them in this work. And so this council is working on ways to help guide this important part of the work. And then the third design principle theme is around continuously improve within state policy. And we all know that the system's always perfectly designed for the results it's getting today, but the system is a function of the policy landscape within which it exists. And so we're working really diligently to ensure that we have a coherent and aligned policy environment to this new vision for Kentucky United We Learn. Next slide, please. So we work together in these work groups that were formed around these three areas: menu of options, learning with local districts, district supports for quality, and engaging and communicating with communities. And these work groups are all working to support this important work. So next slide, please. The menu of options group, this was a really exciting piece that occurred because we had some robust discussions about really what is it that we want. And obviously, that moonshot of having an accountability system that's meaningful and useful to learners first and foremost is exciting. But what do we want that to look like? And we want it to be more than just a local community-based accountability, but to have a kind of an aligned federal, state, and local accountability system right-sized so that it does drive vibrant learning experiences for our students, quality instruction, and enlist the support of our community and all of our invested stakeholders. Next slide, please. So we're really looking at what this whole system would look like, not just at the local level, like I said, but what's required by federal and state, looking at some different ways to get at accountability. So the things that we value the most through this vision are what occurs, and to support this work and to make it transparent. Next slide, please. We also want to make sure that it gives feedback back to everyone involved, including leading indicators for course correction and to improve our lagging indicators and that kind of thing. The thing that I'm most excited about is that KDE and our partners are working on those prototypes that Karen mentioned to share with this work group here pretty soon at the beginning of the summer. And then after we get some feedback, we'll share with the entire Cool Council later in the summer in July when we convene again. So it's very exciting work to move this moonshot to reality. Next slide, please. We're also working with learning with our local districts. As many of you all know, we have some districts that are pioneering this work. And so our partners are working on a tool to support districts while they consider how to design their local assessment accountability systems and to have mock-ups to share with districts to get their input and feedback and to balance this guidance in the district models and to inform this work as we think about moving it from just experimenting, but to starting to scale that experimentation and then ultimately into statewide transformation after we learn what's working. Next slide, please. And then we are also working on district supports for quality. So we're working on ways to determine, what resources are needed, looking at doing asset audits to see what we have in place and what we're missing. We're again studying these innovative districts that have share-worthy resources and making sure that we identify any gaps in the resources to consider before, again, scaling for wider experimentation and ultimately that transformation. Next slide, please. And then the last work group is engaging and communicating with communities. So how do we keep this message paced with our roadmap? How do we ensure that all voices are at the table, including those unusual voices sometimes that don't get lifted, so that we hear them and that we coordinate among the work groups so that everyone is staying informed and focused on the big vision and the moonshot that we all want so desperately. So I'll send it back to Karen, but before I do want to wish everyone a successful close to the school year. I know this is an exciting and busy time, but I'm proud of the work you all do on behalf of our students and families, and good luck wrapping it up.
Thank you, Dr. Flynn. We can go to the last slide. And these are just some of the next steps that we have coming up. The KDE staff and our expert partners are going to continue to work in between these convenings. So, up to this point, we've had all the council members very involved because everything has been about learning. But as we start moving into putting together the prototypes and all the other kinds of work that needs to go on, we do need to start moving a little bit faster. So we're going to be sure that that all of that is moving full speed ahead as best we can. You've already heard that the menu of options work group will be meeting in June to finish up, well, not finish up that work, to get our prototypes in order. Also, there are meetings with the local laboratories of learning going on, and they have a meeting scheduled in July. The summer convening, which I mentioned, is going to happen in late July. And then the prototypes will be shared with all of our advisory groups and education partners throughout the late summer and early fall, leading to our scheduled meeting in October for our fall convening, where we'll be able to share it back with all of the members of the council again and to get their input and make any other adjustments to those prototypes. And with that, I think we are done. So, Commissioner, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Karen and Dr. Flynn. It will be a very busy summer for the United We Learn Council. And also want to note that when we talk about our educational partners, of course, superintendents are a very important part of the partnership in trying to develop these prototypes and moving forward. So we will certainly be reaching out to superintendents for your input and feedback over the summer, early fall as well. We've got Mickey Ray, our Chief Academic Officer, that's going to finish us for today with a presentation on Kentucky Read to Succeed initiatives. Mickey, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, superintendents. I am going to be sharing two key items that are related to Read to Succeed, the Read to Succeed Act from Senate Bill 9 of 2022. And on the next slide, I wanted to kind of frame this around the Kentucky Reading Academy. So within the Read to Succeed Act, the KDE was required to establish teacher academies to support early literacy specifically. And so, as you know, that the Kentucky Reading Academies was created to impact reading outcomes across our state, but in doing so, by making an investment in teachers and administrators, in anyone who is supporting student learning in the literacy space across the Commonwealth. So on the next slide, it talks about the LETRS training. And if we can go to that one, thank you. So we have been implementing LETRS. That was our first professional learning opportunity that happened as a part of the Kentucky Reading Academies. And you can see there we've had 2 cohorts already, and about 4,000 educators are going through the professional learning. And we're so grateful for their investment in that PL. We know that it is extensive, but I have just been so encouraged by the positive feedback that we're receiving around the professional learning. And so we are offering a 3rd cohort, a phase 3 there that will begin in the fall of 2024. So on the next slide, it has information about how you can register. And we just ask that you share this with your building administrators, with teachers in your systems. You can see there that it will be open from May the 1st through August the 30th. That registration form is linked in this PowerPoint, but it also lives on the Kentucky Reading Academy's webpage on the KDE website. Your teachers and administrators will start receiving all of the materials, the login information in September, but the actual learning experience will start in October. We have learned much over the course of these 2 years. And initially, if you remember, we started in August, and that was, as expected, very problematic for teachers as they are starting off school. So now the learning begins in October, and we hope that that will be for the benefit of your educators within your systems. On the next slide, there are 2 different courses that are spelled out for you here, and there's much more information on the website, but we are offering the same 2 courses as in the previous cohort. So the first one is the 2-year course, the Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. We're calling it LETRS for Educators. And this is recommended for K-5 teachers, certainly for your interventionists, reading specialists, instructional coaches. But we have had some administrators, and you'll see even one superintendent that I'm going to spotlight today that has elected to take the LETRS for Educator course. The other option is LETRS for Administrators. That's a separate registration process, and this is just what you would expect. It's designed for district leaders, for building administrators. And if your instructional coaches have gone through the teacher course, you may want to encourage their participation in the admin course. It deals with more of the systems level structures and processes for scaling and sustaining the learning that educators have as a part of the Letters for Educator course. Okay, the next slide, please. I wanted to mention, and a huge thanks to Dr. Jim Masters from Henry County. He allowed us to use his testimonial as part of the promotion for Cohort 3. And I am just so grateful to him and others who are investing in the training, but also looking at it in a very systematic way. So you can see here, he says, as a superintendent, my participation in the letters training has equipped me with essential background knowledge, empowering me to make more informed, evidence-based decisions regarding curriculum, instruction, and assessment. This training has broadened my perspective, enabling me to consider the viewpoint of both students and teachers. And one of the other things I wanted to mention, we do have an evaluation that's happening around the Kentucky Reading Academy's a third-party evaluation. And one of the most compelling findings from the first year of that is, and this will not surprise you, but it is a compelling finding, that the presence of district administrative support and building administrative support has been the biggest incentive to encouraging teachers to participate. So they're hearing from the building administrator, they're hearing from you as district leaders, and with that sort of affirmation about the PL and that the opportunity exists, they are much more likely to engage. And the learning is much more likely to be sustainable because they have that building level support and that true sort of district systems level support. So I thank you. I thank all of you who are sharing this with your faculty and staff and with your building leaders, because it makes a difference for the teacher experience. And then the last slide, this is just promoting our summer conference. So the Read to Succeed Act, again, that is the actual legislation. And we have taken that and framed it for our new logo and branding around Kentucky Reads to Succeed. So you will see that in social media. You'll see that on some of our guidance documents. But the summer conference is happening on June the 20th. It is at the Central Bank Center in Lexington, Kentucky. And it is free. It is free to all Kentucky K-12 public educators. And we have over 1,000 folks who are signed up to be there on June 20th, and we would love to have more. So please be empowered to join us, to share this information with folks that you would like to attend. And we would love to be able to support them in the summer and as a part of Letters Cohort 3 as well. So that's my last slide. If you have any questions, I'm happy to be of support. And thank you, Commissioner, for the space and time today.
Thank you so much, Mickey. I always get excited whenever I hear Mickey presenting about letters and Read to Succeed. She has a true passion for making sure that our students are excelling in literacy at all levels. So thank you, Mickey. Questions and answers, I just checked and it doesn't look like we have any Q&A, so we'll move right on to our last slide. Important dates are there. Kentucky Board of Education will be meeting June 5th and 6th. The Educational Professional Standards Board on June 17th. And here's that additional plug for Kentucky Reads to Succeed conference, that free conference that we certainly hope lots of your teachers and administrators will be able to attend on June 20th. Before I close for the afternoon, we've got just a couple of minutes here left in our time together. Please let me extend on behalf of the Kentucky Board of Education, the Kentucky Department of Education, and myself personally, our sincere appreciation to all the superintendents that will be concluding their tenure as superintendents in your local districts. We know that for some of you, this school year will be the end of a long and dedicated career in education, and we want to say thank you for all that you have done to improve Kentucky's education through the years and the impact that you have made on your students and families. In addition, we know that we will have some new superintendents joining us in the next school year, and we look forward to working with them as new superintendents and provide any assistance and support that we can. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of the KDE staff, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day, and for best wishes for the conclusion of your school year.